the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 161, recorded Friday, September 19th, 2014, live at the AV Executive Conference 2014.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing. Scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. AVWeek.
This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host, and we are live at the AV Executive Conference. With us is Steve Greenblatt, who seems to be following me around the country here recently. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you.
Good to see you again. You were with me at CEDIA last week.
Absolutely.
So, also with us is, are two of our hosts, Duffy Wilbert from Infocom. How are you, sir?
Great. Good to be here.
And also Mr. Brad Grimes. How are you, brother?
Good, Tim. Good to see you.
And Brad Grimes is officially from Infocom again.
That's right.
That's right.
Great to be here.
I would just like to point out the last time I had him on the show, I asked him about that. So.
And I did not lie.
You did not lie.
Did not lie.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled to be back with Infocom.
And
it's just as relaxed.
Yes, he is. This has been interesting. As he slides down the chair. All right, so this is the second annual AV Executive Conference. Duffy, we'll start with you because this is kind of your baby, right?
Yes, sir.
This is, in addition to obviously the committee that helps helps steer it, but this is where you live and you really are excited about this ever since last year even with the first annual. So
sure.
First of all, take me through the concept and the thought process. Why have an AV Executive Conference?
Well, I think, I want to go back and say all through the year, Infocom does roundtables around the U.S., right? So we bring our members together and we begin to talk about what's going on in the industry. When you gather and you start to begin to hear what some of the issues are and what some of the things that are going on, it's great then to be able to put together a conference like this where we really dive in and start talking about some of the business issues. And the other thing about the AV Executive Conference, it's not about technology.
Yeah.
It's truly about the AV business, all right? So when you come here, you're not hearing about what the latest projection is or what the latest monitor is or how this control system's working. We're really diving in and talking about the details of your business and how you're going to be successful. And this year, I think what's really exciting, we started off the day yesterday with a speaker who just basically said, what happens if the AV industry as we know it goes away in 5 years? What are you going to do for your business?
Yeah.
How are you going to do it? And then we spent the rest of the day, frankly, talking about how do you plan your business? How do you plan for the next few years? So for me, having been in the industry for as long as I have, I've been in the industry 30 years, but I'm really very young.
He started when he was 5.
Exactly. Thank you very much. But for me, it's great because it's the opportunity to really get some of our members, some of our non-members, companies in the room and really talk about where are we going and how are we going to get there and who's going to be there when we get there.
Yeah. Some of the things that you started off the day yesterday with some very interesting stats.
Yes.
Right. And then David Goldsmith, who was the speaker right after you, kind of disseminated them a little bit. The whole over $100 billion industry.
Right.
One of the interesting things is the fact that it looks like if trends continue, that Asia Pacific is going to surpass the U.S.
Well, a couple of things, and David Goldsmith and I had a conversation. So we said, okay, so in 2016, I think it is, the AV industry is going to be 117 billion, 116 billion. And what David Goldsmith said is, well, what's the AV industry?
Yeah.
I mean, and is that not the question that we're all really talking about all the time now? I mean, Infocom, for purposes of our market research, has defined the AV industry pretty traditionally as we all think about it. But, what David Goldsmith yesterday said was, well, what about Amazon? They're selling AV equipment. What about, and down the list, and in some of the conversations I had after that, everybody was standing around going, yeah, how do we define the AV industry? Because the AV industry is much broader now and continues to broaden out.
Yeah.
And then I thought what was interesting as we went through the day is as we think about what is the AV industry, then what is our unique value proposition? As an industry, what do we bring to the table so that we don't become just another Amazon product, right? And so that was kind of exciting. On the market research side, then as you begin to look at the world, we go moving forward, we find that, okay, North America is great, right? We've always been the largest consumer user. It's been the largest marketplace. But we're saying in a couple of years, it's going to be Asia.
Yeah.
That's going to surpass North America. So now you got, okay, what is the industry? Where's it going? Oh, by the way, the opportunity may not be within the borders of where I'm at. So now what do I do? And how do I structure my business? And that's really what we've been talking about for the last couple of days.
Yeah. Brad, you're responsible for a lot of the content with Infocom. From your perspective, and maybe even from Infocom's perspective, what would you say? I mean, what is the industry?
Well, and I don't want to be trite, but it's changing, and everybody here realizes that everything's changing, and it's changing a lot faster than it ever has, and that they anticipated. So a lot of what the group went through yesterday was their business model, and the people who really understand their business models change it constantly. They change it very quickly. I've been talking to AV folks since I've been back, and they're talking about how timelines are shrinking and how they have to come out with project proposals much faster, and they're starting to look towards things that the IT industry has done. Agile development. We've talked about this. This is something that is basically lots of small decisions along the way. Things are broken up into pieces, and that's to accommodate change. That's you have to work in smaller bites. Your business model has to constantly evolve and change. Your value proposition constantly has to evolve and change, and that's a brand new way of thinking. And it's not a brand new way of thinking just for the AV industry. I mean, industries everywhere are being turned on their heads because everything moves so quickly that you need to I don't want to say change or die, but that's what we're talking about. And we have to do it constantly. So the people I talk to are grasping that, and they're seeing that. And it was a great workshop yesterday, and the bottom line was get yourself a business model and then change it all the time, and
constantly.
It's a new thought.
Steve, you and I sat together for all day yesterday. Take us through. Dr. Yves is who we're all talking about, and it's called the business model canvas.
Sure.
And literally is, we had fun drawing, and we drew on some things we weren't supposed to, apparently. I think that was probably my fault. But take me through. I mean, you and I do similar things. You
Sure.
with Control Concepts, me with Innovat. To Brad's point, how are you going to take what we've learned? We're doing this on Friday morning, and so we still have a half day left. Mm-hmm. But what we've learned so far, and take that back to New Jersey.
I think it was a great exercise, first of all, and I think a lot of what we talked about was what is it that you provide, what's your value, and then what are the two different sides of the equation. What is, how do you produce it, and what does it mean to your customers, and how does it actually happen, and what are the costs to you. Yeah. And those two things have to balance, and it was just really great being able to connect the dots, see how do you get your product out, who are the important and key components of it. There's a supply chain, very possibly, and then as you are able to focus down on it, you could probably see where the weaknesses and what do you take away and say, this is a gray area, I still have to figure that out. And I think that there are a lot of light bulbs were going off, especially as we looked at some of the examples that he showed yesterday, because he gave us different case studies, and we had to use some stickers and put them on, and luckily those stickers were restickable.
Yes.
Because we found ourselves, at first looking at it one way and then looking at it another way as he went through and explained it to us, and I think, to me, doing is how you learn best. And fortunately, we can relate to some of the examples he gave, whether it was Apple, whether it was Nespresso, and I enjoyed that. And I think that that's something how when I apply it to my business, I can take a look and think about what was this model that we discussed, and how do I draw from that in order to apply to what I do?
Yeah.
I think one of the things about the business model canvas, though, is that it actually gives you a visualization of what you're thinking, right?
Sure.
We all sit around and we talk about our business and we think about where we need to go. And what the business model canvas does is this is what it'll look like, or this is what I'm doing. So it helps you really visualize what you're thinking, right? And where you want to go.
And I think also when we looked at two different revenue streams and how do they lie on top of the other, and that was very cool too.
Yeah, it was. Duffy, you've gotten hooked up with David Noor, right? David Noor was one of the main keynotes last year, and I shouldn't say he hasn't been on stage at all, because he has been a little bit, right? But he's kind of let these other folks kind of shine, but he's still kind of been behind the scenes helping you push this.
That's right.
How did that happen?
Well, actually, last year when we did our first conference, we sat down with our conference committee, came up with an idea. And, one of the challenges when you're developing a conference is to go out and find the speakers, right? Find the right content. And so we were in a conversation, frankly, with David, because we had said, okay, you kind of know our industry a little bit. You've been doing some work for us. And then we got into a conversation with him, and he was starting to line off all the speakers he knew. And we said, okay, if you know our industry and you know our subject, maybe what we ought to do is just work together, and you can help us pull these things together. So you know the speakers probably better than we do, and some of the content things better than we do. So that's frankly how the relationship got started. So this year we said, okay, David, great that you've been on stage, but we really just want you to be the host. We want you to help tie things together. You've got the experience. You know who our members are. You know our industry. But David actually helped us find Dr. Pignor. He helped us find a couple of our other speakers. So he's kind of moved into a host and consulting role with us as we begin to put some of these subjects together.
Yeah, I think it's worked really well.
Yeah, thank you.
Brad, real quickly, why should somebody come to this? I mean, I again, thank you guys for hosting us and letting us come. I've gotten a lot out of this. These are C-level executives, right? Mm-hmm. But why should a C-level executive or an executive in general spend? It's an investment. It's an investment of money, and it's an investment of time. You're basically taking 3 days out of your September.
Well, first of all, I should say, as we all know, I'm not one of them, and I'm the fly on the wall. From talking to them, and what I understand is, sometimes we're so focused on the business model or the business process or what we're doing day to day, and we make excuses for not stepping aside and really thinking about these things. And going back to what I was talking about, how everything's changing, it's hard to see it changing when you're right in the middle of it. So if you don't step back and think, okay, I know what my value proposition is, or I think I know what my value proposition is, but if I don't recognize that it can change on a dime, then I'm not going to be in a position to alter course or to introduce new services or bring in new skills or anything like that. And the folks I talk to say you just can't always see that when you're in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. That's number one. And the number two thing that they do hear a lot is they talk. I mean, they do the show, and they do this individually and in Infocom in meetings and things like that. But at this level, the caliber of AV professionals in here, to be able to sit around and they're sharing openly. We've talked about it. We're like, why are these folks sharing all these, what might be considered competitive secrets with one another? Well, the rising tide lifts all boats, yep. And as the industry learns from one another, it can adapt to the changes and things like that. So it's always fun to see a lot of these folks and to hear them talking about the things that are making their businesses successful and not hiding it.
Yeah. One of the neat things is we did a homework session last night, and we're in Phoenix, and there were these little cabanas around the pool. And you guys separated manufacturers and integrators. Mm-hmm. And the cabana I landed in had a number of integrators, but that also had a subcontractor, right? And he subcontracts labor, and I subcontract programming. And it was interesting to see it. He's much larger than we are, and it was interesting to see his processes, because his company was the one we chose to kind of delve into with the Canvas. It was interesting to see, some of his pain points and his strategic partnerships, and I learned a lot just like listening to him.
It's I've always said our industry is a passionate industry, and most everybody I know is pretty heavily vested in it. And yesterday, Homework Express is funny. We sat in a room all day, and Dr. Pignor, it was like a fire hose, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I got to the end of the day, and I got up on stage to close out the day, and I'm looking at the faces in the room, and I'm thinking, we've blown you all away. It was just a tremendous amount of stuff. And I'm standing up there thinking, nobody's going to show up at Homework Express, because we gave everybody an hour off and said, hey, come back to Homework Express and do more work. And so when we're standing out there and we're waiting and then people just start showing up. And then the other piece that was really cool, I mean, it sounds strange, but it got dark, and we had no lights, and people kept working. So I mean, it was like everybody was invested, passionate. We're gonna make this work, and it was just really exciting to be part of it.
Yeah, we had a couple flashlight apps going.
There you go, absolutely.
That was neat. So.
I think there's a lot more collaboration going on. And
right.
I think that's where the value came in, and,
sure.
And I think everybody was learning from each other's business and also looking to see who can I partner with, because people are doing business outside of their region, and then there's also the different types of businesses that we had a manufacturer's rep, we had a distributor, and he was basically saying, what can we do better for you, for our audience?
And you guys had Chris Miller from PSNI in your group too, didn't you?
I didn't know.
Okay, it must have been next Cabana then.
Yeah.
So.
But one of the things I heard from a couple of people last night is, okay, I sat there all day. I wasn't sure at the end of the day whether I really understood what I was supposed to do. But then I went to Homework Express and sat around with other people that were doing it, and we got it. Yeah. Because it kind of like brought it home. So I was just really excited. Everybody just stayed right in there and kept pushing, even though it was a long day yesterday.
It was.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll let you guys get to your actual job. Duffy Wilbert from Infocom, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And Brad Grimes, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, we're going to bring in two people who also sat in with us all day yesterday. Corey Schaefer from Listen Technologies, and my buddy John Green from Advanced AV. How are you, sir?
Got escalated to buddy, huh?
Yeah.
My buddy too.
I want to be a buddy.
Don't let my wife.
I just follow him around.
So she gets jealous very easily, and so does your. Never mind. How are you?
Wonderful.
Good.
Let's talk about this event, and then we'll get into some of the industry stuff for a second. Sure. John, we'll start with you from the integration side. How do you take what we've learned so far from the Canvas and everything, and go back to Pennsylvania and apply that?
The unfortunate tendency is to go to these seminars, and by the time you get off the plane, take on the task that you left when you came to the conference. It's just basically trying to dedicate yourself to, if you spent the time, to start to apply it. And the other part of it is that you probably can't apply everything we learned, as you just talked about. That was a fire hose yesterday.
Yeah.
And we all have businesses to run. We have employees we need to work with on a regular basis, but you need to take that time. And I think you have to decide as a dedication, you're going to take something out of it, and you're going to work with it. So.
All right, Corey, from the manufacturing side. One of the things that they talked about yesterday was the necessity to constantly change your business plan. That's not something easy to do when in manufacturing, is it?
It isn't, but I'll tell you one, I'm going to switch it a little bit because it was a fire hose yesterday. And one of the things that I am committed to bringing back is the value prop exercise, right? So not only do we look at our business models and look at the vision of that, but then look at the value prop, because I feel like in this industry, we all say the same stuff. Great service, we provide a great experience. And one of the things that I've had in my company is we'll come up with what we think is our value prop. And then I shoot holes in it. Like, well, can't X competitor say the same thing? What makes us different? And then everybody goes, well, yeah, okay, so what do you think it is? And then I'm like, it's a challenge. So I think this was such a great exercise to visually try to lay it out and then to go back and go, what's going to make my company different from my competitor? What really is a true value prop? And I think this industry, we've been talking about it for years. We've struggled with it, and this seemed to just simplify it. It was great.
Yeah. One of the things that Dr. Hughes kind of pushed us all on is the hypothesis, right? Mm-hmm. And Corey mentioned this, Steve. How do you take the hypothesis, which is, this is what I think my customer wants, this is the value proposition I think that we bring. How do you test that then?
One of the things that the ideas that I had yesterday, and one of the things that came, I think, of the discussion is that it's good to be able to check in and survey, but until you can get somebody to bring out their checkbook, that's the only time that you really for sure know that what you're providing is a value to your customer. And I think that was one of the light bulbs that went off. But I think it's important to always challenge what you're doing and always try to see if you can make it better or work with somebody else who is not a competitor and can help you to really suss through all of these details and push you on it. Yeah. I think that's the only way that you're going to really make it so that you're going to have something that's going to work.
So in the Homework Express exercise last night, when it got dark, it was great because I had the privilege of putting something out there because nobody else, was willing to put anything out there. And I just thought, what a great opportunity for me to just lay something out. So I defined something, and it completely went a different direction because of the group there. And I was so happy about that. And then they kept asking me, well, will it do this? Does it do? I said, it doesn't currently, but it doesn't mean it couldn't, right?
Sure,
because it was just ideas and things that I had never thought of. And I think the outcome, I rolled that thing up, and then this morning I folded it, I put it in my luggage, and I just thought, this is and we use those Post-its, so hopefully they're not slipping from their squares, so.
The magic Post-its.
Those were not, they were Post-its, but they didn't have, never mind, they didn't stick, they were static, I think, is what they were. Yeah. I mentioned this with Duffy and Brad, they separated us at the Homework Express. So you were with the manufacturers?
So it was with manufacturers and some distributors.
Okay, all right.
And it was great because we weren't all in the core market. We had big Cisco there, right? And then we had, a couple smaller, it was just it was just good input.
So you had to sit around with Paul Depperschmidt.
Yeah.
Paul's a good guy. Sometimes I talk to him and my brain does hurt afterwards. So, John, let's kind of shift this a little bit and talk a little bit more about the industry and some recent news. Where do you think we are? We've had two really successful, really big shows, right? Infocom 2014 broke records. CEDIA had growth as well last week. Is that an indicator? Or?
It is, but I just think the economy's coming back. That's the way I get hit on a regular basis of new opportunities coming out of the ground. If I'm too busy and I reach my max resources, I come to conferences like this to find subcontractors like Steve. When I'm looking for that type of relationship.
I'm going to hold you
to that. And you will.
And when he gets busy, you can call me.
No, hopefully call me. I'm the manufacturer.
Yeah, and attendance at a show isn't necessarily the indicator of success. Because in some cases they're going to the show to look for jobs. Sometimes they're looking for information. Sometimes they're looking for partnerships. I think in the past two shows, there's been a lot of conversation about looking for products, looking for solutions, and looking for partnerships. That's how I would indicate that it's doing well. So even at this show, one of the difficulties that we're running into is that from an engineering standpoint, we take a certain approach. And what we're being challenged by our clients right now is look for a different solution, or look for, it's a pricing issue where I have to find a substitute product, or I have to find a less expensive service to meet a just as good quality. So that type of stuff has been pressing for us.
Or just look at it differently.
That's why I come to these. I find myself leaning up against the wall and going, well, look, it's all straight and flat and everything's good, and you step back and you realize it's chaos.
Yeah.
And you come to this and you have conversations with many of your peers, and they give you feedback. And they give you feedback about yourself. That's what's even best.
Yeah,
So.
It almost seems like that business model can be done for the industry as a whole, or each of the different roles within the industry.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a really good idea, actually. We should have,
because we have to reinvent ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because
Right.
we're being challenged as an industry.
We are. And I actually feel like these, the past 4 years or so have actually been really good for us because it's been difficult.
Yep.
We have to get creative. The business has been out there and it is out there.
Yep.
It's just, you have to approach it differently.
Yep.
And so I think that I would agree with John that it's not about the attendance. And one thing I bring back to my company is, I start to say it and they finish my sentence because the fortune's in the follow-up. It isn't about, hey, how was the show? And I watch what the replies are, like, how was the show? How do we judge that, right? Well, I judge it based on ROI, how many people we took, how much money we spent, how many projects we get out of it. Because that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you saw your friends, had a wonderful dinner, and your booth looked great. What matters is, how much business did you book?
Yeah.
And it really isn't the number of leads either, so it's not just about trying to get people to your booth to win a, Harley Davidson or whatever. It's about getting the right leads in your booth. And what I loved this year, and it may have been there before, but one of the things I noticed was you had your a lot of end users, which was great, and you had your typical higher eds and corporate, but I saw companies that I now view as customers that I didn't see before, like fitness centers.
Right.
At Infocom,
okay.
Lifetime Fitness was a lead from Infocom.
Holy cow.
Yeah, weird. And then, but makes sense because you walk in. Well, I've heard if you go into a fitness center that there's lots of AV in there, right? So it kind of makes sense with that. And then also DirecTV. So you think about just kind of a different clientele, which was so refreshing.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
So Corey, from a business standpoint, where do you think we are?
So I hear these growth numbers of roughly 2%, and it's tough to get excited about. And I can tell you that our goals are much higher than that. And I feel like we're back, but I'm reluctant to even say it because I think we need to reflect on the last 4 years and what we went through and change our behavior because I'm concerned that we're going to get complacent again because I feel like we do. I feel like we think the phone line only goes one direction. Yeah. We're just not working hard enough.
Is there a danger of getting out of the past 4 years and the recession that we went through, and when things start getting good again, getting lazy and not taking those lessons that we learned?
Okay, I think some were still lazy even in the difficult times, and sometimes you just can't change behavior.
Yeah.
But it's just human nature.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've been running a race for 4 years, you want to stop and take a break.
Yeah.
The problem is not to make it long. It's business is good. I got the story I like to tell out of this one is one of our competitors is at the conference here, and I had to walk up to him and congratulate him for taking a piece of business from me. It was a very large project, that type of a situation. So I get a chance to talk to him and say, congratulations. It was one of our customers. It was a project we were working with. They did a good job, and I can look back on myself and say, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And that type of thing. But again, that's happening on a more regular basis. People are continuing to be hungry, and you can see the competitors digging their heels in and starting to, and that brings the excitement back to the business.
Right, and I've been in this business a long time. I think we all have, and I've never seen what we just went through. I mean, we've seen recessions, we've seen dips, but I have never seen what we just went through. So I don't really know what the recovery is, and I'm kind of afraid to say that it's okay to take a breather.
Right, that's true.
Good point.
All right, Steve, from the I almost said the programmer side, but really from the subcontractors, right? That this is what you and I do. From your side, where do you think we are?
Well, we sit as subcontractors in an interesting position because we're the ones that can provide the flex.
Yeah.
So when things start to ramp up, hopefully we'll be called on some more. I think that we hear a lot about the opportunities that are coming, and we see a lot of projects that are out in the distance, and we're just waiting for some of them to unfold, and some of them are on construction schedules and so forth, and we just have to keep our eyes open and also not fall into the trap of going after the business that we may not want down the road. So
define that, because I think I know what you mean.
Yeah,
but define that.
Yeah.
It's easy to say I could work for a day if I don't have something to do and do something that may not be a best fit for us, or we may have to do it at a discounted rate. But you don't want to get stuck in a project or a situation where you are committed to a less than ideal opportunity and pass up other opportunities, and
not all business is good business, right?
That's something that I steer clear of, and it's very hard for people on my team to understand that, because they want to be busy, they want to make money as well, and they want us to succeed, but you really have to kind of navigate and make sure that you're keeping your eye on what your target is, because that's what you do best, and that's how you're going to succeed and be the most profitable, but also serve the customer best.
Yeah. As a systems integrator, I could tell you some of the difficulties we've been having, and we're trying to take a different approach. And I think that subcontractors, to a large degree, line themselves up and they'll say, "I'm capable of doing this, and this is my talent set." And then we go, "Okay, for this project, you work." And that's the way that this industry's been set up. I have a project, I need a little flex. I have a project, I don't have manpower, whatever it might be. The approach of actually become a part, and I hate to use that term partner because it's been bannered about too much and overutilized, but as part of a team for a longer period of time to work through some situations. Is that something that your company would be looking at? I mean,
absolutely.
Is that okay?
That's our ideal. The problem is that those relationships seem to ebb and flow.
Right.
And in the situation that we're in, when if we used to be targeting more towards the integrators and we're kind of shifting more toward the end users, is the problem is that the integrators will bring the resources in house.
Right.
That we do, and then all of a sudden we'll be left out in the cold. So we have to make sure that we're taking that play that's going to have more longevity. Although we still would value anybody who wants to make us part of their team and look.
And we often put you in the back end of the deliverable, which that's a dynamic that has to change. I think that we're finding in conversations with customers, when we're part of their team, we need to bring the people to the table that are bringing all the solutions that are very early on, instead of giving you a list of things to do, because that's where the misinterpretation occurs. Because even in the systems integration business, the dynamic of the design starts at the beginning and changes 100 times before the end. So there's some of the things that we're looking at. We're trying to take a different perspective on.
We prefer to be looked at as a specialist rather than just labor to solve an immediate need.
Right.
is really where it comes down to.
Okay.
All right. As we wrap this up, Corey, we'll start with you. And what's going on in the industry? What's happening? Anything new? Obviously, CEDIA was last week, but anything newsworthy, or just kind of what's coming down the pipeline?
Gosh.
Infocom is wrapping up this today, and they're getting ready for their regional show in San Jose early next year. But as the year winds down, there's not really a whole lot in the news-wise in the industry.
So I'm really not in the CEDIA category, so I can't speak to that. However, and I'm hoping the year doesn't wind down in full disclosure. So what I see is, in my business, probably half of my business is specification, so the bid work, right? So that the consultant community is very, very busy again. And I think that's such a great predictor, because they're 12, 24, 36 months out. And I actually, because we're in Phoenix, I stopped in to see one that is highly in the government sector, and that's been a market that was strong, went weak, etc. So I got in front of 3 of them and asked, what's happening, and so they give me some great visibility and some forecasting of stuff that's about to pop in, Q1, Q2, and it's so, it was just great. So I feel for my business, half of it at least is I can look in that crystal ball and see that it's good and full. So then I've got to work on that other 50%. Or 60, I'd like to go more than 100%.
Theoretically, that's not really possible, right?
Anything's possible.
I keep telling my wife that as I take on 2 and 3 projects a week. So.
John, there's no newsworthy, but again, going back to how things are in the industry, we've been invited just this month and rolling from September through October by clients that say, "We just found a pile of money. I'm like,
Wow.
What is their number?
And where did they find it?
Where did they find it?
Or they freely admitted that they're going to spend some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we hand it to you, tell us about the future. I mean, it's a challenge because as this industry is recognized, everybody uses Google. Even we did on our spaghetti challenge yesterday.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It didn't work.
Didn't help us at all.
No.
But they're looking for tomorrow's technology today. They're looking for what they really need to consider before they're going to make an investment. That puts them in about a 12-month period, but they're ready to go. And they're looking at what your capabilities are, who you partner with, what technologies you really like to promote. So it's a challenge for us. We literally are setting a day aside to do, have people come in, different salespeople, different project managers, and say, hey, think about this. This is what we run into. Consider that. They're fun projects. They're not going to result to, hi, you're a vendor tomorrow type of a situation, or here's a project, but this is at a very top level down.
So I'm going to just share a short story, and that we had this discussion at my table last night at dinner, but we had a university. He was telling me he's a nonprofit. They keep tuition really low. Put out an RFP. It gets awarded, and the solution that's in it isn't mine. And I really feel like I thought I had it all along. It's very significant. So, and this was a lead from Infocom. So we're really working it. We're thinking we're really close to the end user, the dealer, have this relationship. And at the end of the day, there's like a $13,000 difference. And the dealer's trying to grind us. And, anyone who knows me knows that I don't go there. Then his client, the client, which was the lead from the show, started grinding and giving me his story. And at the end of the day, I said, okay, we've got this particular solution, but we just can't meet that difference of 13 grand. And we're also phasing in a new technology. It's a generation 3. So we're carrying both. And then this client said, what is the difference between Gen 2 and Gen 3? But I said, for you don't need Gen 3. You don't need the advantages of Gen 3. At the end of the day, he went Gen 3 and paid a lot more.
Right.
Wow.
Shocking.
Right.
Shocking.
I think we're afraid to have conversations with our customers about that.
Yeah.
Every day.
That was one thing that was brought up yesterday too about don't focus on the cost, but focus on the value.
Right.
Yeah.
And too many people are having that
That's
conversation
absolutely
about
a very strong takeaway for me from that.
Yeah. What is the cost and what's the price
You can tell
sensitivity?
my follow-ups are on my tweets. So.
But it's we have to change our habits because the last few years have been so difficult and have been so price driven that this situation, honestly, I was shocked. I am still shocked because it hasn't been that way.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Steve, you'll have the last one on this one. Where, anything interesting, anything new coming down for you?
I think for software seems to be a focus, in the control, and that was in Duffy's presentation in the beginning, and I think that's a great thing, obviously for people in our position. But I think what we have to do is think outside the box. What can we do with systems that we haven't been doing before? I had a consultant who came and spoke with me recently and said, if you really look at what we're providing, 75% of the control system is just transport controls and basic stuff, the same stuff we've been doing for how many years. And, so what can we do to make these things smarter, more automated, be able to provide more for the customer and also make the experience better. So I think that's really what we have to focus on, trying to tie in different components maybe that we weren't thinking of before, whether it's building controls, whether it's interfacing with databases, other pieces of software. So the control system has a lot more power than it used to have, and I think that those are and the control manufacturers are giving us that capability. We have to leverage it, and then it's hard because that on a day-to-day basis you're so busy really getting work done. Do you have the time to do the R&D, especially for smaller businesses?
Yeah, and sometimes you don't because you are so busy. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it. John Green from Advanced
Thank you very
AV.
much.
How can people find out more about you or Advanced AV?
It's advanceav.com.
Or follow his tweets.
And follow your tweets.
Follow at John Green. That's John Green 6.
John Green 6.
Like ask me my phone number. I don't know what it is. I don't call myself.
That's a green with an E on the end.
Yes.
It's 6 spelled out.
And then 6 spelled out, yeah.
6 spelled out. At the origination of that is I have 4 children. I'm married. That's the Green 6.
Wait, and you have the 2 dogs too.
Oh, well, they don't. Okay.
All 8 is a longer, never mind. Steve Greenblatt, Control Concepts. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and good to see you a couple weeks in a row and spend some time. You can reach us at controlconcepts.net. I'm on Twitter at Steve Greenblatt, and like to stay in touch. I think this, social media is a great way to continue this conversation as well.
And this is the first time I met both you in person.
Yeah.
And we've been living the life of social for the past 6 months.
It's amazing.
It's been enjoyable.
Yeah, it's been. All right, and last but not least, Corey Schaefer from Advanced Faith, from Listen Technologies, who's going to
And Corey Schaefer on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Very social. And then listentech.tech.com.
Very good. All right. Don't follow me. Go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others, bloggers and videos and all sorts of things. We've got we're starting a newsletter, so there's a place there for you to sign up there if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. That is all the time we have for AV Week.